Hey guys, it's Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, and in today's video, we're going to do a hands-on unboxing and review of the Yealink T56A smart business phone. So some of you are probably watching this and you're wondering, why is it called smart business phone? Well, it's simple. So you guys have seen me review a lot of phones, but most of them, they have your typical functions of a phone, which this one does, but this phone actually allows for the use of Microsoft Teams and also Skype for business. So just before we get into this review, so you guys know, there is a T56A like this one that basically is Microsoft Teams compatible and Skype for business. And then there's also another one, I forget the exact model number, but there's another one that looks exactly identical to the one that I'm going to show you today, but it is not Teams compatible. Unfortunately, even though I'm going to power this thing up and let you guys see the screen and see what it looks like in powered on mode, I won't be able to log into it and show you any intricate features regarding Teams because we don't use Teams here at Rich Technology Group. But I am going to go over the interface, the features. I'm going to talk to you guys about some of the similarities between this phone and some of the other Yealink phones in the T50 series, such as the 54W that we've reviewed in previous videos and that I've actually used in the office. And then I'm just going to wrap up with some other, my honest thoughts, my first impressions, and what I think about this phone. So without further ado, let's unbox this bad boy and see what we got. And one other thing that I totally forgot to mention, this box, as always, was sent to us by VoIP Supply. So huge thanks to VoIP Supply for sending us over this box. If you like what you see in this video, I'll have some links below this video on our YouTube channel, as well as the blog that gets created later on for this review, where you can go on VoIP Supply's website and you can see more specific information such as pricing, detailed hardware specifications, what it's compatible with, and much more. Also, as always, if you're on VoIP Supply's website and you're looking at this piece of hardware, you can either reach out to us if you need help or recommendations on this phone with them, or just hit up one of the people in the chat at VoIP Supply and say, hey, I saw this video of a review of this phone, Rich Technology Group sent me, and they'll be more than happy to help you with whatever you need. Everything from seeing if this phone is right for your business, or getting you special pricing on one or more of these, or any other phones or VoIP-related hardware that you need for your business. So again, let's jump right into this and see what we got in the box. All right, this looks like our actual phone assembly here. Yep, and just like I told you guys, this very much has a liking to the T54W. So let's put that down. Same layout, a lot less buttons than a T54W or than a T46S from Yealink. But keep in mind, that's because this is a touch screen, so a lot of your buttons in your function is going to be in the screen, so that means less button space needed. Even though the chassis is almost the same, it even looks like they freed up some space here. But if you look at it first impressions, you notice there's no directional pad here. My guess is because all that's going to be up here for you to move around and things like that. So let's see what else we got inside this box. All right, you got your quick start guide here. Yealink, as again, this is a T56A Teams edition. Again, as I mentioned, there's one that is like this that is not a Teams edition, and you can just automatically provision it without having to have a team login or anything like that. Like I said, we don't use Teams, so we're not actually going to get into too much of the interface in this video, unfortunately. Here is your mounting bracket. Not your mounting bracket, I'm sorry. This is kind of like your stand that would go on the back so that you can stand this up, and we'll assemble all that in a few. Here is your cord, obviously to connect the handset to the actual base. And then as always, a Cat 5 or Cat 6E cable in the bag to connect to your switch or router. And then last but not least is our handset right here. All right, so let's go ahead and put all this together, shall we? it looks like this would go this way like so. Yep. We'll go ahead and connect our handset here like so. All right, and there you have it. Yealink T56A Teams Edition. So, let's go ahead and see what type of interfaces this thing has got before we get into specifications and then power it on, and I give you guys my honest thoughts. Okay, so the front, as I mentioned before, looks very similar to most all of the other T50 series phones that Yealink has, like the T58, the T54W, so on and so forth. The one thing that I noticed is, that I already mentioned earlier, is that this thing still uses the same chassis as the other T50 models, but because it's a touchscreen, it doesn't need as much functionality on the actual chassis, but instead of minimizing the chassis itself, they just kind of eliminated where buttons are on the non-touchscreen Yealink phones that use this exact same L-shaped, chassis, if you will. So that's kind of strange. I guess it makes it easier from a manufacturing standpoint. They don't have to change machinery or the chassis type, but it's just kind of weird that there's that bare space like that there. To me, that looks strange, but that's just a personal preference. That has obviously no bearing on the functionality or anything of the phone itself. The buttons, as always, which is the case with most of these Yealinks that I've worked with, are very ergonomic. They feel really nice on the hands. They're easy to push. They're very responsive. So that's one thing that I've always personally liked a lot about Yealink devices, that I'm sure somebody who likes responsive buttons or, just prefers buttons that feel good on the hands and, are just good to use, feel nice to use, would appreciate. The receiver on this phone is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you pick it up, you hang it up. It's got the round little speaker here, which is kind of traditional on most of the Yealinks. Sometimes I wish that the speakerphone here was a little bigger. As you notice with some of the other phones out there, like your Fanvilles and even some of your Polycoms, the speaker tends to be bigger, especially with the Fanville having like a giant, almost all of this being a speaker, which gives you kind of more of a, I guess, more audio quality or a louder speaker if you've got a bigger office or need to move around. I've not tested the speaker on this, so I can't tell you whether it's too quiet or too loud, but it's typical of your Yealink T50 series speakerphones. Okay, so for our interfaces on the back, we've got your typical internet port here. This is a PoE capable phone, so this is a PoE capable pass-through. You've got your internet port here. This is where you would come in with your router from your, your internet service provider from your switch to give this thing actual internet. And of course, if it's a PoE switch, that's how you give it power. And this is your pass-through port that can go out to a PC to also share the internet connection or some other internet-enabled device, like maybe like a, I don't know, like if you had an internet fax or something like that that you wanted to connect to, or whatever that may be. I guess in this case it would be an ATA. There is a DC 5-volt power adapter jack here, but as most of you may already know, which I mentioned in many of our phone review videos, most IP phones, when you purchase them from a third-party source other than the service provider, they do not include the power supply. So just be aware of that. When you purchase these online from like a VoIP supply or an Amazon or something like that, they are assuming that you are either going to buy this power adapter separately or you've got a PoE switch to power your phones in your office. So just be mindful of that. Over here to the right on your ports panel on the bottom or back side of this phone, you've got where your actual handset receiver plugs into, which is this here that I'm holding going into there. And then you've got like your typical RJ9 headset jack. Now, I don't personally really have any RJ9s. Everything is pretty much USB or Bluetooth at this point, but luckily this phone does have a USB port on the back, as you can see right there. That's on the back side of the actual screen that you can plug into with a USB headset. And this phone does also support Bluetooth, and I also believe it supports Wi-Fi, which I'll verify that shortly. But I'm pretty sure it supports Wi-Fi because most of the phones in the T50 series, when you get higher up, like to the T54 and higher, they support Wi-Fi, but I do need to verify that. I was really hoping for a second USB port on the side. A lot of phones these days have a separate USB port that tends to be like maybe on this side or over here, but there is nothing. So it looks like there's just one USB port on here, which you can use for like an external recording device or more commonly used for an external headset. And now we are going to power this bad boy on, and maybe while we are waiting, we will get into the specifications of the actual device itself. Okay, so the Yealink T56A Teams Edition Smart Business Phone. It has a 7-inch 1024 by 600 capacitive touchscreen. It runs Android 5.1.1, so that actually is new news to me. I would be curious to know, once you get into this thing, do you have access to like the Play Store or something like that to be able to install apps? Unfortunately, I don't know, but I will have links that can tell you all of that under this video, so don't worry for those of you who are interested. This thing supports Bluetooth 4.0 for headsets and pairing mobile devices. It says, it's pretty interesting, it says Bluetooth 4.0 for headsets and pairing mobile devices via dongle, and it says Wi-Fi 802.11 via dongle. So, unless I'm mistaken, that's actually a little bit disappointing. It's funny because on Yealink's website, it says that the Wi-Fi is kind of built in, from what I gathered, unless I'm mistaken. But on other third-party sources, it's saying that it requires a dongle. But I'll try to dig up that information for you guys. I want to believe that this thing has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth built in without the use of a dongle, because it's other phones that are also in the 50 series that are cheaper than this phone, before, as you step up to the 56A, do not require a dongle to be able to connect to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So I'm really hoping that this is just a typo here. It does say it is USB compliant and it's 2.0. It says for USB headsets, media, and storage applications. And it also says it supports up to 16 VoIP accounts, which means this is a 16 simultaneous line or simultaneous call phone. And I would assume that actually is in tandem with whatever you're able to do through your Microsoft Teams account based on the phone system you're using, or what capabilities and functions and features you have with whatever Microsoft Teams plan and phone system you're running. It says that you can also do up to a 5-party audio conference, so that's kind of cool. That's better than a 3-way call. And it says it has a stand with 2 adjustable angles. So the stand that you guys saw me set up earlier, it looks like I've probably got it on the highest angle. Yeah. And then it means you can probably also go lower and push it back a bit. So that is possible there. It does say it is wall mountable, but obviously a wall mount bracket is not included with this phone in the box, as you just saw. And then last but not least, it says that it has a color screen expansion module support, which means if you wanted to add an expansion module to this phone for additional lines or additional functionality, you can do that via this port over here that is actually covered up here, is what that is. You would attach it here, and then I assume connect it through the auxiliary in the back of the phone. So you can put an expansion module on the side of this phone, which is actually cool and works great for somebody in an office who is probably taking a lot of calls and needs to be able to, have that expansion capability on this phone. Okay, guys, so real talk. Pros and cons. What I do and don't like about it. Let's start with the pros. First of all, it's a beautiful design. It's that familiar Yealink T50 series, desktop type phone that just is sexy to look at. It looks really good in an office. The only thing that I don't really care so much about is just the space that's missing here. But other than that, it's a good looking design. Color screen is really nice. It's very responsive. Even though I can't sign into Microsoft Teams, I've played with it a little bit, during the pauses on this video. And the color screen is really responsive. I personally never have really liked touchscreen phones because I found that historically older touchscreen phones, you touch it and then there's like a millisecond or sometimes even a second delay in the time that you touch the screen and the time that you get your menu. Not the case with this phone. It seems very responsive. Even on the on-screen keyboard, it's extremely responsive to my taps and to my inputs and whatnot. So that's one thing that I really actually like about it. Other pros. It supports Microsoft Teams. Even though we don't use Teams internally, we talk with a lot of customers that do, that are looking for a phone that can integrate with Teams for Vonage, Teams for Nextiva, Teams for TalkDesk, Teams for RingCentral. To be able to connect with a phone like this that will work directly with your service provider and also have Teams functionality and support that you can also integrate and use with your service provider, that's just icing on the cake. That's just a win-win. The fact that it supports an expansion module to the right of the chassis, that's a huge plus. Even though I don't personally use enough lines or talk to that many people in a given day, for large offices or people that need to manage a lot of calls, like a front desk receptionist, at a big law firm, or multiple people at a call center that are routing a lot of calls and need to be able to see shared line appearance or who's available or patch into people quickly, being able to add an expansion module to this phone is actually a really big plus. So you guys are going to laugh at this other pro that I like about this phone, because I noticed it when I unboxed it and meant to say something earlier, but I guess we'll say it now. One of the things that was really neat is that this user manual that came with this thing has like a basic call features cheat sheet. Most phones that I review of all different brands, they do not have anything in it that shows you how to do certain things in the basic sense, like how to park a call, how to transfer a call, how to do a warm transfer, how to do a blind or unattended transfer, so on and so forth, how to do a basic conference. This thing seems to have all of the basic features in literally like what we like to call layman terms, which is just, hey, want to make a call? Do this. Want to transfer a call? Step 1, press this. Step 2, press this. Step 3, press that. So that's actually a really big pro that it has a cheat sheet manual like this. I know some of you are watching this and laughing and being like, really, Prince, how's that a pro? You'd be surprised how many people call me after we have recommended a phone system provider to them. They've chosen their phones, they've went with the provider, and they call me up and say, hey, Prince, we love the system that you recommended. We even love the phones, but we have no idea how to use them. There's no manual. There's nothing that tells me how to do anything in the basic sense, like transfer a call, conference in somebody, do this or that. Well, it's actually in this manual, most of the stuff that even I would need to do were I using this phone. So that's a huge pro there. Okay, so I found that information for you guys, and this is still in our list of pros. This thing does support integrated Bluetooth and integrated Wi-Fi. From what I'm seeing on Yealink's website, it does not require that you have a Wi-Fi dongle, which means less plugs and things and less expense to be able to get on Wi-Fi or get on Bluetooth. That's actually a huge plus. So you've got the choice on this thing for your headset of using the regular RJ9 plug, or you could use the USB port, or just go totally Bluetooth. And if this phone is anything like what I've experienced in the past when I connected a Bluetooth headset to a Yealink in the 50 series, it's more or less like instantaneous. You pair it and you're paired within like 2 minutes or so, however long it takes to do pairing. I also looked at some other information on this thing prior to this video, and I learned that this phone has a built-in web browser. Since it's Android OS, my guess is maybe it's based off of Chrome since Android is Google. But it has a built-in web browser, and it's also Android, so it has built-in calendar. It said it has a built-in calendar and also a built-in, where did it go? Built-in calendar, built-in voice recorder or phone call recorder, and much more. So I don't know if you can access the Play Store with this thing, but my guess is it's some form of a limited Play Store of sorts where you can get access to certain apps that have been approved by Google and by Android and for use on this Yealink platform. Okay, so let's move on to the cons. The first one, which I already mentioned once before, that is just very strange to me, and I can't stop looking at it, is obviously from a manufacturing standpoint to create all these phones in the T50 series, it's easier to use the same mold or the same chassis that's already kind of, we'll say, on the press, so to speak, if you will, on the printing press. So I understand why this chassis is on here, even though they don't need all this space for these buttons, because most of this functionality is going to be in your touchscreen here. But it just looks weird to me that there's absolutely nothing here. Like, it makes me want to put like a Yealink sticker there, or like a RTG sticker there, or like something that says for service, call here, just to fill that space so that I can stop looking at it because it looks strange. For me, the con of this phone, another con would be that this phone, it seems like you can't use it at all unless you have Microsoft Teams. And I don't use Microsoft Teams, so for me, the phone is virtually useless for us, even though it is compatible with the VoIP service provider that we use. But like, I just don't really have a use for this phone because we don't use Microsoft Teams. So that's one, I guess you could say that's a con for us at Rich Technology Group, but not necessarily a con or anything bad towards Yealink, because like I said, Yealink makes one. Well, I'll just show you guys. Yealink actually has one that is not the Teams version of this particular phone. So you can get this phone where it just works with your provider, assuming your provider supports this particular Yealink T50 series phone. You don't have to use it with Microsoft Teams. You can get that version, which I wish I had. Okay, so that's it for cons. So you guys are probably wondering, how much does this thing cost? Based on what I've been able to see from our sources, this thing is priced at about anywhere from about $399 to $415, depending on where you get it from. So we'll just say it's about a $400 phone. That sounds about right. With some of the other ones that are similar to this chassis, but don't necessarily have the Teams integration or the Google Play Store and all that kind of stuff, and Android capability where you can, check voice. This thing has visual voicemail, so you can listen to voicemails visually, like on the screen and stuff like that, which a lot of phones, even in this Yealink series, cannot do. That being said, I'd say it's a pretty good price, where some of the other Yealink phones in this series that can't do these functions come in at maybe about $275 to $300. So you're talking about an extra $100 to get Teams integration, Android, and like a lot of Google app and whatnot capability, and stuff like calendar integration and all that. It's not a bad price. One other con that I totally forgot to mention that I wanted to point out that I thought was strange, which is weird because some of the other phones in this same series, like the T54W, can do this, is this screen does not move. It doesn't have a tilt hinge here where you can actually move the screen back and forth to either, fit your viewing angle of the distance or the height of your seat at your desk, or to basically be able to move it to push away from the glare of like a window or something like that, like I did earlier. So that's probably the only other con that I can think of with this. If you're interested in this phone, feel free to hit us up on our website, or just hit us up in the comments. I'll have links where you can get it from VoIP Supply or Amazon on the description. But if you want to talk to somebody and you feel that you need more of a consultative approach, just let us know. I am more than happy to hook you up with one of our contacts at VoIP Supply, who is more than happy to chat with you to find out more about your business needs. See if this phone makes any sense for your business, especially if you're using Teams, or to see if another Teams capable phone, because there's a bunch of them out there, makes the most sense for your business. So, anywho, if you found this video helpful, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel because we upload new videos every single week. Also, please help us get to our 10,000 subscriber goal by the end of 2021. What else is going to say? Oh, well, you guys know the deal. The outro. As always, this is Prince Rich with Rich Technology Group, your go-to guy for the best deals on business phone and internet service in the United States. I'll catch you guys again in the next video.